Hi, this is Simon from HomeKit News, and this week we're looking at one of the many new products from Aqara, the Camera Hub G3. Now, in my opinion, this is possibly the best HomeKit camera I've tested so far. There's tons to look at, so it's going to be a long one. If you want to know why it's so good, settle in and keep watching. So here's the newest camera on the block from Aqara, of course, and as you can probably tell by the writing on the box, it's the G3 designed for mainland China. The box doesn't give too much away, but the G3 is most definitely HomeKit compatible and includes things like a Zigbee 3 hub, an IR blaster and 360-degree panorama view. It also boasts on-device AI functionality, night vision and 2K recording. Whilst I open this up, I should make clear that this is the G3 for China and only works with the China server in the Aqara app. An international version will follow that will also work with Google and Amazon. So in the box we first have a basic manual in Mandarin. We've got the main course here in the G3, which I'll quickly unwrap, and as you can see it really is quite a unique design and certainly doesn't follow in the footsteps of other recent cameras. Next up is the power cable, which you may be happy to see is USB-C along with a standard USB power supply. Let's go back to the G3 for a moment so I can give you some more details, starting with a list of features. There are a lot, so you may want to pause the video at this point. Some of the highlights include connectivity to the 5 GHz band, face and gesture recognition, motion tracking, an SD card slot for on-device 2K recording, and support for all 4 alarm modes. As you can see, there's plenty more to look at, of course, so I'll start with a closer look at the body of the G3 itself. The front face of the G3 features a 3 megapixel camera lens that can record in 2K. To the left of the lens is an ambient light sensor, and on the edges you get dual microphones. Right below the camera section is a multifunction button as well as a status light. Now, apart from showing the camera status, you can use it for pairing devices manually, as well as make video calls or even reset the device as needed. The rear of the G3 features a large speaker for two-way audio, and below that is the USB-C port. Interestingly, you can use the port to stream to a PC using the UVC protocol. Admittedly, when I first saw a picture of the G3 stood next to an Aqara G2H, I thought it was actually quite big. But in actual fact it's fairly standard when you compare it to most other cameras as seen here. So for our US viewers, the G3 is 4.84 inches tall, 3.35 inches wide and 2.64 inches deep. One feature of the G3 we've seen with a couple of other cameras recently is pan and tilt. The G3 can pan 340 degrees in total, but as it has a 110 degree field of view, the whole 360 degrees view is covered. That's it for the horizontal plane, but the tilt part of the G3 has a range of 45 degrees in total, with 30 degrees up and 15 degrees down. I'll now just quickly show you Aqara's cute take on the SD card storage function. When the camera is in privacy mode, the G3 not only reveals the SD card slot, but shows a couple of sleepy eyes. Like I said, cute. I'll next go through some of the features and functions for the G3 in the Aqara app. On the main screen above and below the live stream window are a set of buttons that you'll probably be familiar with if you already own the G2 or G2H, which includes things like manual recording, privacy mode, streaming quality and two-way audio. Below this section we have a button to control devices with the built-in IR blaster. I've already added an LG TV which generates a handy user interface, but there are a few standard device categories to choose from. Pan and tilt control is in the centre, and as you can guess it's fairly straightforward to use. In full screen mode you can also use your finger to control pan and tilt. Next to that is a button called concerned position. This simply has preset locations for the camera to point to, so if I press topmost for example, the G3 will point itself to the topmost area it's capable of. Now you can also add your own custom preset positions, like pointing at the sofa in this example, or centered in the other location I set. Next is the Advanced tab, which gives you access to the following functions: human and pet tracking, cruise, face identification, gesture identification, and further options via the More button. We'll look into these functions next. Gesture recognition basically allows users to trigger scenes or automations using their hands, with these 5 specific gestures to choose from. Gesture recognition has to be on, of course, in order for this to work, so I'll show you a quick demo of it working here using 3 specific gestures. It should be noted that whilst the G3 can only control other Aqara devices under normal circumstances, there are ways around this, as you can see I've achieved here. This can be done by triggering an Aqara device that in turn triggers specific HomeKit scenes. This could be the status of a light on an Aqara hub, for example, and in this case I'm using the switches on the Aqara S1 LED panel. I'll now take this a step further and show how I can integrate a hand gesture, the pan control of the G3, and utilise the IR Blaster all-in-one automation. I already have the control of the TV within the Aqara app, so I'll create an automation that first detects my OK hand gesture that instructs the G3 to turn towards the TV. It then turns the TV on using the IR Blaster. After that it pauses for a few seconds before returning to its previous location. Of course, I can already see people stating that this is a solution looking for a problem, which is true to some extent given the other ways that this can be achieved, but it's still better to have than not, in my opinion, even if it's seldom used. People with speech impediments, for example, might not be able to use Siri, so there are going to be certain use cases. If gesture recognition doesn't float your boat, then we'll now look at facial recognition and how specific faces can trigger specific devices. You can see in this first example a face is recognised and turns the kitchen lights on. With a different face recognised, a different set of lights is triggered. Onto human tracking, and in this example I have human tracking enabled on the G3. Now you can see that even though motion from the dog is in the camera's view, it's ignored as only human tracking is active, which follows the human form and no other type of motion. There are occasions when a human might not be identified as such if they're crouching, for example, but just to show that it does work and the first example wasn't a fluke, our dog makes a second appearance, which is still ignored by the human motion tracking algorithm. In the same way that only humans are tracked when that option is active, dog and cat tracking works just the same, so motion detected on the computer screen in this example is disregarded, with only the pet being focused on. It's probably not going to work with snakes or tortoises, however. Onto one function of the front button, and in this case it's video calls. The caller simply presses the button for 5 seconds and the account holder will receive a push notification on their phone. Once the notification is tapped, it opens up the live stream so you can speak to the caller. Even more functions, and in the Aqara app below the live stream is the timeline section, much like you'd find in the Home app using HomeKit Secure Video, so you can go back through previous dates and recordings. The difference here is that you can have the timeline display different coloured lines to represent different types of motion detection or activity. So if I go into the More Settings and Alert Settings section, I then have an associated Events Label section where I can assign colours for the different types of activity shown in the timeline. In this section you also get control of different types of alerts and recordings. So here you have face identification that allows you to set how long the detection period is. You can also choose whether to record, when to record, and whether you want to receive push notifications. Alongside face identification you also get much the same options for human identification, cat and dog identification, and general motion detection. Here you have the option to set motion sensitivity level for detection, as well as set regions where motion is or isn't detected. Following on from that are options for abnormal sound detection and gesture identification. With this option you can set the regions where gestures are detected, similar to regions for general motion detection, but you also get an option to detect either just the gestures on their own or only detect gestures if a face is also detected at the same time. Going back to some more basic camera options, and for recording to an SD card you can choose to record only on activity, you can record continuously if you wish, or of course you don't have to record at all. Recording is one thing, but the G3 also has a log of all activity, so you can look through the log to find specific activity at a specific time and date. This log also shows when gestures were used or when specific faces were detected. Like the Eufy pan and tilt camera, the G3 also has a cruise function that surveys the area. However, the G3 allows you to go a lot further. Within the options you can create your own custom cruise automation, which you first create by naming the custom cruise. Once that's done, you can begin adding stopping points for the camera to go to rather than just go from left to right. In this case, I've created my own set of custom points which I'll add to the automation. I can then adjust the running order and customize how long the camera stops at each point for before moving to the next location. The minimum pause is for 5 seconds with a maximum of 60 seconds. When it reaches the last point, the cruise will start over in a loop lasting up to 5 hours. Now that I've created my custom cruise automation, allow me to demonstrate it to you. Any camera wouldn't be much good without decent image quality, and I've found the G3 to be more than adequate. In the examples here, I've taken screenshots from the Home app, as that's the way most people are going to be seeing them. So this first image was taken in the daytime with no lighting, whereas the second image is in the daytime with indoor lighting turned on. If you're wondering about what appears to be a red carpet, that's for our elderly beagle who has trouble walking on the smooth floor. Putting all that to one side, here's a third screenshot taken in the evening with the lights on, and lastly an image at night with only night vision active. In this next example is a screen recording taken from the Home app again with night vision active, which shows our other dog Bubble. This last clip is also set to night vision, but in this case the recording has been taken from the SD card, so this would have been originally in 2K. You're probably wondering about the HomeKit side of things, so here you can see that the G3 can also be used just like any other HomeKit camera, including HomeKit secure video functionality. There's nothing out of the ordinary in this case, however. Also in HomeKit, and unlike with the G2H, we have the security system exposed to HomeKit. So not only is the G3 a camera and a hub, it's also a fully functioning alarm. So if I press on the tile, you can see it has all 4 alarm modes. These 4 alarm modes will also sync with the M1S, the M2 and the P3 if you have these. So to demonstrate, if I select away mode, I can then go back to the main screen and show that the M2, the M1S and the P3 are all set to away mode as well. Conversely, if I go into the alarm for the P3 and set it to night mode, you'll see that the same hubs have all changed to night mode, including the G3. So if I just go into the G3 and set that to off, once again all the hubs are now off. This won't work with the original hubs, unfortunately. Along with the alarm we need a siren, of course, so I'll do a simple test comparing the volume of the G3, the M1 and the M2, starting off with the G3. I'll now do a quick test to show what speech sounds like through the speaker of the G3 from an iPhone. This is a test. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. Hi, this is a test. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. This next example demonstrates how well the microphones can pick up audio from the 3 set distances. Hi, this is a test. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. Hi, this is a test. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. Hi, this is a test. 1, 2, 3. This is a test. The status light on the front, which is also a button, can change colour depending on the status of the G3. So in normal operation the LED will be blue, changing to red when the live stream from any app is viewed. If you press the button 3 times, the G3 goes into pairing mode, flashing in purple.
Please add accessories.
You can exit pairing mode by just pressing the button once. If you have gesture recognition enabled on the G3, the camera will recognise your hand gesture and turn the LED green for roughly 1 second to indicate it has acknowledged the gesture, performs any automation or scene you've set it to perform before returning to the previous colour. As with most HomeKit compatible cameras, you can turn the status light off, although when it comes to either gesture recognition or pairing mode, the LED will still light up. Having a hub built into the camera has some obvious benefits, and with the G3 containing a Zigbee 3 hub, it's somewhat future-proof to an extent. The range of devices available from Aqara is shocking when you list them, although not all devices are available in all territories, of course. Here are the devices listed on the China server, which include things like the new P1 contact sensor, which has a 5-year battery life, the high precision motion sensor, which can fit into a ceiling much like a downlight, the H1 rocker switches, which are now available in the EU, the updated T1 Aqara light bulb that can work with adaptive lighting by HomeKit, the smart dimmer controller that can control pretty much any light strip, and the new HomeKit compatible Aqara Cube, which we'll be reviewing soon, hopefully. If you're still around, well done. Let's move swiftly on to the pros and cons. So I do find it hard to find any meaningful downsides to the G3, so it's really pretty much all pros. I have to say that Aqara has taken things to a new level with facial and gesture recognition, so it's a case of working out how creative you can be with these things. It's great that the G3 has pan and tilt, but even better that you can create custom routes for the camera to take. All major devices from Aqara seem to have a hub in them these days, so it's great that this adds a lot more value to the G3. Now, even though you might struggle to find IR based devices these days, it's still good that they've included it regardless. And with the G3 we have a camera with all 4 syncable alarm modes. Now, the only negative I can possibly say is that with so many options available, it can be a little overwhelming as to where to start. But is that a negative? Probably not. Personally, I'm bowled over with the G3, to be honest, and I'd go so far as to say that this is the camera to beat. But after all this, let me know what you think of the G3, good or bad. So that's it for now, but I hope you'll come back for our next video, and in the meantime, stay safe. Bye bye.